One morning, as prosecutor Alicia Thomas made her way to the courthouse, she felt the determination within her. She had reached the pinnacle of her legal career as a black woman in her early 40s. She had faced and overcome many challenges. But today, she would face a case that would change her life. Alicia's case today involved a major lawsuit against a big pharmaceutical company. The size of the case and the media attention did not worry her. Maintaining her usual professional appearance, she walked to the courthouse. He put on his dark black robe, gathered his braided hair, and approached the door to enter. But as he approached the door, he realized that a group of police officers were waiting at the courthouse entrance. Her eyes fell on Officer Dawson, a middle-aged, heavy-set policeman. As Alicia approached, Dawson stepped in her path and stopped her with his hands in the air. "You can't go through here, ma'am," Dawson said in a stern voice. Alicia was surprised. "Prosecutor Alicia Thomas, I have a hearing here today," she replied. Dawson stared at Alicia, looking her up and down. "Are you saying you're a prosecutor?" he asked condescendingly. "It doesn't look like it to me. Prosecutors don't look like that." For a moment, anger swelled in Alicia's heart. "Here's my ID to prove who I am," she said, and pulled her official prosecutor's ID out of her bag. But Dawson looked at it and laughed derisively. "It's just a card. Anyone can do something like this," he said and handed it back. The crowd was growing. Alicia felt everyone's gaze on her. People were whispering, looking at her. For a moment she felt humiliated, but she quickly pulled herself together. She decided to manage the situation, not with anger, but by demanding the respect she deserved. "I'll put you in touch with the Attorney General here right away," Alicia said. She took out her cell phone and called the secretary at the courthouse. "I want to see Attorney General Wilkins at the door right away," she said. Within minutes, Attorney General Wilkins appeared at the door. He frowned when he saw the look on Dawson's face. "This woman is Prosecutor Alicia Thomas. Why this kind of treatment?" Dawson was at a loss for words. "But I didn't know," he muttered. Wilkins stared at Dawson. "Just because you don't know doesn't justify treating someone like that," he said. "It's not your job to judge a black woman on sight." Alicia turned to Wilkins and said in a calm but firm voice, "Thank you, Attorney General. But I want to solve this myself." Wilkins was surprised, but when he saw Alicia's determination, he backed off. Alicia looked Dawson in the eye and began to speak. "Your job here is to treat people equally and administer justice. But by keeping me out today, you are not only undermining justice, you are undermining trust in society. You are hurting people by judging them based on their appearance." Dawson got lost in the depths of Alicia's eyes, feeling the weight of her words. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Alicia continued with a calm expression on her face. "Apologizing is a start, but it is not enough. Every day people are judged by what they look like rather than who they are. This is not just a wrong done to me. It's a mistake against society. And until people like you realize these mistakes, the cycle will continue." The people around her watched Alicia in silence. Her words seemed to echo in the air. A few people began to applaud silently. Others nodded their heads in agreement. Alicia leaned toward Dawson. "You need to do better. This is not just a lesson. It's a warning to realize what role you play in society." Dawson bowed his head. "Yes, I understand," he said. Alicia controlled her anger and headed for the courthouse door. This was not just her struggle, but the struggle of every black woman. It was a moment of triumph for those whose identities, abilities, and achievements were constantly questioned. With every step she took towards justice, she grew stronger despite those who tried to stop her. The only thing on Alicia's mind that day during the hearing was the discrimination she faced. But she was as strong as ever. Because she was not just a prosecutor, she was also a woman fighting against injustice. She would go one step further each time. In the middle of the trial, Alicia realized once again that justice must be defended everywhere, not just in court. She knew that her experiences had as much impact on society as the cases she defended. But she had to conduct her work professionally. He looked the defendants in the face and continued his speech. Although the injustice of that morning still echoed inside her, she remained calm and managed the case. As the trial went on, Alicia saw Officer Dawson in the back row of the courtroom. He looked ashamed and remorseful. Alicia ignored him, but knew her lesson had an impact. Looking at Dawson, she realized she had despised not just a woman, but justice. When the trial ended, Alicia was about to leave the courtroom when Dawson approached her at the door. He had an uneasy look on his face. "Prosecutor Thomas," he called in a low voice. Alicia stopped and looked at him, but said nothing. Dawson took a deep breath and began to speak. "I realize the mistake I made today. I wronged you and everything you stand for. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I owe you something. I will change myself." Alicia watched him silently for a few seconds. The anger inside her had cooled a little, but she had to decide if it was enough. "You shouldn't approach anyone in this world with prejudices, Dawson. Not just me. Apologizing is a good start, but it's not enough. Time will tell if you really have changed." Dawson listened to Alicia's words with deep seriousness and nodded. "You're right," he said. "I'll never forget what I did this morning. It was a moment that changed me." Without looking at him for long, Alicia nodded and started down the courthouse stairs. She felt a sense of triumph, but it wasn't just personal. It was in service of a larger purpose, a society, a system, and the way it delivers justice. As Alicia made her way to her car, she reflected that the events of that morning and her conversation with Dawson were only a small reflection of years of discrimination. But every small step contributed to a big change. That's why she grew stronger with each step. On the way, a newscaster on the radio was talking about the growing social tensions all over the country. Alicia thought for a moment, without taking her eyes off the road. When would things really change? Such prejudices still prevailed in all sectors of society, but she would never stop looking for the answer to this question. Because she knew that in a world where everyone is fighting a battle within themselves, justice must always win. In the evening of that day, when Alicia returned home from work, a sense of calm came over her. She stood in front of the bookcase in her living room and looked through the law books she had kept for years. They were all symbols of her perseverance, her faith, and her victories in this long struggle. She knew in her heart that what happened that morning at the courthouse door was a turning point in her life. Alicia was deep in thought that evening at home. The impact of the incident was still fresh in her mind. She had fought for years for the law, believing that justice would be an impartial sword. But what had happened that morning at the courthouse door had shown her once again how deep the prejudices in society still ran. She went into the kitchen and brewed a cup of tea. She sat in front of the window and looked out at the dark street. After the incident, many people had sent messages of support. Social media was buzzing with video of the incident outside the courthouse. People were amazed by Alicia's patience and fortitude. But Alicia had something else on her mind. Would change only happen with individual support, or was a systemic transformation needed? After a while, a notification popped up on her phone screen. It was a press release from the judicial community. The Attorney General's office was announcing that Police Officer Dawson had been dismissed. Alicia sighed deeply as she read the news. Even though she knew Dawson was wrong, she felt that he had learned a lesson and deserved a chance to change. Firing a person would not end social prejudice. It would only serve to cover up the problem. As he was leaving for the courthouse, he had a thought. Justice needs to happen in the streets, in people's hearts, and in minds. He picked up his phone and called someone. "Hello, Attorney General. I need to talk to you about Officer Dawson," Alicia said. The Attorney General listened. Alicia said it would make more sense to train Dawson than to fire him. She suggested training for Dawson and others with prejudice. "People need to confront their prejudices and take steps to change," Alicia added. "We need to educate people, not punish them." The Attorney General agreed with Alicia. "Good idea. Fighting prejudice is a system-wide responsibility. We'll give Dawson a chance to change." Alicia was happy when she hung up. Maybe this was how change would start, in a good way. She would not forget this injustice, but she would use it to create a better future. The next day, Alicia returned to the courthouse and was noticed again. People saw a leader and symbol of change, not just a judge. The policeman at the courthouse saluted her. Alicia walked in with her head held high and started work. She knew the fight was still on. This time, justice was being prepared not only in the courts but also in people's hearts. Changing the system was as important as winning. Alicia felt this journey had only just begun. This was a story of social change. Alicia showed everyone how to fight prejudice and defend justice. The story ended, but Alicia's struggle continued. Subscribe, comment, and like my channel. Bye.